welcome back to another Crafternoon with Mandy. As you can see, I have my whole table covered with foil, so that's an indication it's going to be a messy one, but it will be fun. Another paint project. I don't know if you've all heard of yarn pulls before, but these are something that I have been looking at online a lot. I think they're really fun, and I think we should try it. So, what you need for this, again, some strong paper. You could do this with cardboard as well. Probably not printer paper just because you need a lot of paint for this and it will make it too wet. So I'm going to use watercolor paper. Paints of your choice. I'm using green, purple, blue, and pink, but you could use one color, you could use two colors, however much you want. A very long piece of string and a lot of white paint, which I have just off camera here. I'll show you how we do this. The first step of your yarn pull is that you want to put a base layer of paint down on your paper. I'm going to use white because I'm using pretty vibrant colors for the actual string pull. So all you really want to do, it seems like a weird thing to do, but just put a pretty good amount of your base color on here. You could do black, you could do another neutral. I'm going to do white. You want it to be pretty thick because you want, when we put paint on our string, you want that paint to drag through the wet paint here. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, as you've seen, I put a pretty generous layer of white paint on my paper. It's pretty wet. I don't want to move it too much because it's also very heavy with paint. The next step is to paint your string. I'm gonna lay it down like this. And what you're gonna do is just pour the paint directly on the string. Like I said, this is a messy one, so make sure you have proper protective gear on, a smock, and that you've covered all the surfaces in your home. So like this. So our next challenge is to lift this string out of the puddles of paint that I put on it and swirl it around on this paper. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, fingers crossed. After you laid your yarn down in a swirly pattern how you like it, slowly begin dragging it straight off the paper. Don't lift the yarn off, just drag it straight out. This part gets a little bit messy, so just make sure you have enough clearance that you're not going to swing your yarn into anything that doesn't want to get paint on. Okay, I didn't want to waste the paint, so I pressed another piece of yarn in, and I'm going to do another pull on this same canvas, and I'll show you what that looks like too. So far so good on these. Okay, so off camera I did a third string pull just because I thought it was so cool. Depending on how much paint you put on your first round of string, you could get a couple of more rounds in there if it's wet enough. So as you can see, I'm gonna lift this. I would not recommend doing this with your own. Putting a lot of wet white paint on the background helps give the string kind of like a puddle to float around in. So of the three pulls that I did, the middle one was the first, so that one's the biggest. You can tell that the white background is starting to dry a little on this one, but it still looks pretty cool. And I think that came out really nicely. Looks like flowers in a garden. So yeah, I hope that you try this at home, and that you come up with something beautiful. All right, that's it for another Crafternoon with Mandy. We'll see you again real soon. Bye!